And Lin and I are excited to share our LSAF implementation journey with you today. My name is Fan Ying. I'm currently the Director of Biostatistical Programming at Insights. Joining me is my colleague, Lin, who is Associate Director of Biostatistical Programming at our team. Here is a quick look at our agenda for LSAF. Our goal is to give you a comprehensive behind-the-scenes view of our LSAF implementation. I will walk you through for the first half of the process, from the initial system setup and development testing all the way through system validation and training. At that point, Lin will take over starting with migration strategy. We will also share with you about the challenges we faced, how we solved the problem, and the tangible benefits we are seeing today. Finally, we will conclude recommendations for anyone who is undergoing similar journey. And of course, we have saved some time at the end for you to ask any questions if you have. With that, let's dive into the introduction. For those who might not be familiar with Insights, we are a global biopharma company headquartered in Wilmington, Delaware. Our main mission was what we call SoftOn, was all about scientific research in to treat disease with high unmet need, particularly in oncology, hematology, and dermatologists. To support that mission, our clinical analytic teams is highly active. Our specific group consists of more than 60 SaaS users evenly split between biostatistics and programming, which brings us to the main driver for transition to LSAF. And this slide highlights pain points that acted as catalyst for change. As our programming demands increased, SaaS Cloud simply required too many manual maintenance. For compliance, proving 21 CFR Part 11 previously relies on manual tracking. LSAF shifts this by baking tolerable audit trails into the system. For version control, we used to struggle with manual file renaming or backing up. LSAF eliminates this risk by providing systematic checking or checkout process, creating a very complete historical archive. Data lineage is another massive improvement. Instead of struggling to prove which version of the macros or data sets generates specific TFLs, LSAF provides automated dependency tracking. The system maps the exact lineage from the raw data sets to SDTM domains and data sets and add-on data sets straight to final TFLs. Finally, LSAF provides structured lifecycle management. It divides architecture to the active workspace for day-to-day programming and a secured repository. The system-enforced promotion path ensures the final deliverable is logged and fully traceable. Then let me show you how we prepared for LSAF. Before we could build our new home in LSAF system, we had to take a hard look at what we were packing for the moving. The initial step was evaluating existing workflows to see how our team members was actually operating. Once we understood our baseline, we had to architect our new home. We spent a significant time in discussing how we are going to build our model in LSAF. We didn't want to just copy-paste the old system to the newer tool, so we debated the hierarchy, exactly how many levels we are going to go should our new study structures go. So, but still, we want to ensure the new study structures is organized and not a nightmare for the users to click through. So we also look closely at our delivery mechanism to ensure our new study features will support efficient and repeatable milestones. This led directly to optimizing folder structures. We removed legacy folders that were no longer applicable and shifted some subfolders around to ensure the path to the data sets and TFL was logical. And more importantly, we made separation between the primary and QC environments to ensure independence validation. A major part of the discussion was about the statistical review process. We had to decide, does it make more sense for the statistician to navigate at the study level, or does a delivery folder fit better for the statistical review process? And in the end, the goal was to create a system that can facilitate statistical review process as smooth as possible. Now let me talk about the system setup and testing in dev environments. Once we had our blueprints, we moved into the actual build phase, doing all the initial setup and testing in the dev environments. And we knew that manually creating these complex study folders would be prone to human errors. To solve this issue, we developed our custom tools and utilities to automatically create these standardized folder structures to ensure consistency across all studies. And security and compliance were very important for us, so we implemented a strict role-based access control. And so we create our own distinct profiles for the primary programmers, the QC programmer, our statistician, and read-only users. We tested every single role assignment to ensure the segregation of duties works in the systems, not just on the paper. To prove the system worked, we executed 2 dummy studies in the dev environments. And we tested the entire process from the raw data ingestion to the final TFL production. This allowed us to track any necessary workflow updates. And this also provides us foundational nodes to feed into the future RLSEF general guide. One of the most valuable exercises during this phase was global macro library cleanup. I know it's tempting in a migration stage to just lift and shift everything to the new system. We refused to do that. So we evaluated every single global macro. If a macro wasn't actively adding values, we left it behind. For the macros we decided to migrate, we updated the macros to fit the RLSEF system perfectly. Most importantly, from the traceable standpoint, we documented everything. So we document why a macro was retired and what kind of changes have been made in the macros we migrated. Then let me introduce about validating and the UAT testing for the system. Because we are operating in a highly regulated space, validation couldn't be an afterthought. We had to ensure RLSEF was audit ready from the very first day we went on live. So we executed a very comprehensive IQ, OQ, PQ strategy. We didn't just ensure the system was able to turn on. We tested if the system ran correctly as planned. And the system also ran perfectly as expected within our, for each specific roles and workflows for the users would subject to. And for most importantly, we do everything in the documentation for every single configuration change we made from the initial setup through the RBAC access given, we documented. So if an auditor comes in tomorrow, we have detailed validation summary reports ready. To prove our system runs expectedly and remains fully compliant with the regulatory expectations. And the validation was truly a partnership between Insight and SAS. SAS provided us a very comprehensive requirements traceability matrix, so-called RTM, which outlined every single user and the functional requirements for the system. And our internal team took the RTM and went line by line to identify exactly which requirements fell under Insight's responsibility. And the rule was very simple about when we get to the stage of UAT testing. UAT testing was a gatekeeper for us. So prod environments wouldn't be released until both Insight and SAS completed their respective testing and signed off. So this joint sign-off gave our leadership team and QA team total confidence when we finally released our prod environments. Then we get to the stage of training and onboarding. When it came to train more than 60 SAS users, we knew it would be a disaster if we only provide a single massive training to the team. So we designed a highly phased approach for the training. The phase one training was all about the reputation. Between the initial system setup and the prod environment release, we conducted high-level LSAF overviews 3 different times. We didn't mean to train the team how to write the code in LSAF, but to keep the system basics refreshed in the team's memory and then serve as a constant reminder that migration was approaching. The phase 2 was about hands-on training. We intentionally waited to hold the small groups hands-on training exactly 1 month prior to the actual migration. We wanted the team to learn the clicks and then immediately carry the fresh muscle memory into the actual day-to-day work. The phase 3 was ongoing support to the team when they get to the actual project work. We also completely rethought our resources, how to provide the resources to our team. We understood some programmers learn best by reading the manual line by line, and while some programmers prefer to watch what other people do. So we developed a very comprehensive user training guide, including both written documentation and video formats. We also combined all the workflow updates discovered during the dummy study testing phase into a very comprehensive LSAF general guide. Now this general guide has become our department's Bible for daily operations. And we also made it very clear to our team the documentation was living. So if a user found anything is confusing or a better workaround, we update our guide immediately based on their feedback. Finally, we didn't just rely on the scheduled office hours to answer the users' questions. We created a dedicated, always-on LSAF support team. We understand migrating to a highly regulated version-controlled system was stressful. So by giving our team a very supported channel, whenever they can reach out for questions, they will never feel stuck or unsupported in the new environments. Now I'm going to hand it to my colleague Lin to start with migration strategy.
Can everyone hear? Yeah, thank you, Fengying. So I'll pick up from here. And I want to start with the section where the real stakes arrive. Migration is where any implementation becomes real. Any misstep has direct consequence for active clinical deliverables. So let me walk you through exactly how we approached it. We developed a detailed playbook a document covering the migration timeline, study evaluations, and critical notes for each study team designated migration week. Everyone involved exactly know what they were responsible for and when. Roles are clearly defined. Compound leads were responsible for evaluating the portfolio to determine exactly which study require migration and in what sequence. Study teams were empowered to determine which specific deliverables required migration and what timing worked best for their specific study workflow. So this separation of responsibility prevented bottlenecks and ensured nobody was handed a migration plan they hadn't agreed to. Most importantly, we did not migrate everything at once. Migration was carefully sequenced. Timelines were chosen to guarantee zero delay to active clinical deliverables while giving the study team adequate time to acclimate before the next migration began. We were not going to rush people through a system change on top of an active submission. On the technical side, we developed a custom mapping utility to automatically and accurately translate legacy folder structure into new LSAF directory hierarchy. This automation is essential. It removed a major source of potential human error and ensured every migration was consistent across teams. We also set up what we call the middle place, a dedicated staging area identified and secured by IT to contemporarily hold the zip file of all migrated project data before final ingestion into LSAF. That staging layer gives us a clean, controlled, auditable handoff point. Here is the hardline we drew. Write access to all SaaS cloud system was officially removed immediately before each specific study's migration. It's immediately before, not after. That prevented a data divergency of someone accidentally updating a file in the SaaS cloud while migration was underway, and it enforced adoption. There was no passback. All right, let's talk about the real stuff. Challenges are often the most useful part of any implementation story. Anyone can tell you what went well. What's actually useful is understanding what didn't go as planned and what you can do about it. We have 3 main challenge areas. Before I get into the job construct specifically, let me address the foundational challenge, the one created the most frictions in the early weeks across almost every team, the workspace versus repository learning curve. Users struggled about the concept of the LSAF architecture. They were confused about others couldn't see their active workspace. They have to push the outputs and data sets to the repository before QC or BioStack could see them, which felt like an extra unnecessary step. Our solution was continuous, repeated education on the regulatory why. It's not how you do this, but why the system works this way. So the workspace is your private sandbox, while the repository is a shared source of truth where compliance requires. Once people understand the purpose, most of the frictions are resolved. Now let's get to the LSAF job construct itself. The challenge, transitioning from simply running a SAS script to understanding the formal construction and constructor and requirements of an LSAF job, manifests, inputs, outputs. feel like a lot of new ceremonies for something that used to feel simple. The solution. Our technical team developed a custom macro that automated the heavy lifting job creation for the users. Instead of requiring everyone to learn the full mental model from scratch, we abstracted the complexity. That was a game changer for adoption. We also hit a very specific and frustrating problem. A job would execute perfectly in their private workspace, but immediately throw an error when run in the formal repository. The solution, we educate the team that the repository enforces strict dependence, transit area, and passing rules that Workspace doesn't. We address this through target documentation and through one-on-one support during the debug moment. The third challenge area was debugging. In a standard SaaS environment, reading a log is second nature. You know what to look for and where. While in LSAF, diagnosing a job failure means navigating complex system logs and manifest files, which was highly unintuitive for users accustomed to standard SaaS log. Our response was two-pronged: real-time triage and support. Our dedicated SaaS support team provided immediate hands-on assistance to help users read the job logs and debug specific failure in real time. Proactive knowledge sharing. We hosted targeted Q&A sessions specifically designed to refresh teams' memory on troubleshooting techniques and to review the most common job failure scenarios. The goal of both approaches was the same: make the common failure modes feel familiar before people encountered them alone. Because the moment when someone is stuck, isolated, and under deadline pressure is genuinely the worst time to learn something new. So, was it worth it? Let me tell you what we gained. On collaboration, now we can run multiple delivery tasks, an interim analysis, and an ad hoc request, for example, simultaneously under the exact same study folder without interfering with each other. Study team members can seamlessly collaborate without constant fear of overriding a colleague's work. On version control, we have on version control, we have one definite repository for every program, macro, and statistical output. Every change to every file is tracked with granularity. And we have guaranteed reproducibility, the ability to roll back to specific locked code versions tied directly to historical data cuts. On compliance, we are CFR 21 Part 11 compliant with automated unalterable system log and the audit trails natively generated by the system. We maintain the continuous state of inspection readiness without manual tracking overhead we used to carry. On traceability, we have unbroken lineage from raw data ingestion through SDTM and ADAM generation down to the final TFLs. It's system controlled, structural, not dependent on someone remembering to document a step. On scalability, what we built is a foundation. It is designed to grow with us. More studies, more complex trial designs, a larger team. We are not going to outgrow this environment. Let me be honest with you about the retrospectives. What we would do exactly the same. The phased just-in-time onboarding and the parallel system testing worked, and establishing the dedicated LSAF support team for real-time debugging was one of the best structural decisions we made throughout the entire process. What we would change next time, 3 things stand out clearly. The first, deeper architecture training. Provide a significant more focused training exclusively on understanding the workspace versus repository paradigm before any coding begins. Second, mastering the job. Dedicate more upfront hands-on training strictly to the mechanics of how an LSAF job functions, executes, and maps dependencies. Third, LexiCode. Allocate more dedicated time for cleaning LexiCode before migration window opens. If you are preparing for your own LSAF implementation or any significant platform migration, here is our honest advice. Don't migrate bad habits. Use a transition as a mandate. Standardize naming convention and retire obsolete macros. Build good hygiene into the new environment from day one. Be strategic about your version control activation. Every single saved version consumes server storage space. Do not blindly turn on version control at the earliest stage of drafting a program or output. Define clear instruction on when to activate versioning. For example, only after initial exploratory coding is complete or when preparing for milestone deliverables. Set that standard early and enforce it consistently. Involve QA and IT at the very beginning. Make your compliance, quality, and technical teams your closest partner from day one. They will surface issues and ask questions nobody else is thinking about. You want them at the table before you are in production, not called in to help fix after the fact. Let me close with what we actually accomplished, because I think it's important to be concrete. We successfully migrated planned studies to LSAF on time with 0 delays to active clinical deliverables. We successfully transitioned approximately 60 core users from SaaS Cloud to LSAF. We achieved 4 CFR 21 Part 11 compliance with automated audit trails. We transformed our clinical analytics environment into a secure, collaborative, and highly scalable operation. Why does any of this matter? Because modern clinical analytics requires something sounds simple but generally hard to achieve: the balance between speed and uncompromising quality. We cannot sacrifice one for the other. Not when the science behind the data is what determines whether a therapy reaches patient. LSAF provides a foundation to deliver both. And that is what this entire journey is about. Thank you so much for your time today. Feng and I are here. We would love to hear your questions.
Thank you so much. Before we get into questions, let's show our speakers some appreciation. It's a lot of work and a lot of information disseminated. So thank you so much. If you have a question, just raise your hand and I'll bring the microphone over to you.
What sort of reluctance or hesitation was there on the part of your users, and how did you get everybody on board with the move?
So, not sure. Can you hear
Yeah,
us still?
Yeah. Everyone can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, so as we mentioned before, we designed the training into several phases. So right after we started doing dev environment setup, we gave a presentation to the whole team. So we give them a basic picture. We are going to transition to a new environment because no one like changes, so we keep setting up the tone. We are going to change to the new system and everyone need to be ready. So we have about 3 different time as like provided overview of the LSF about the basic of the structure and the system, what it looks like. As I mentioned, we didn't train the team how to write the code. Everyone knows how to write the code. So they just have get the basic about LSF system and then they know they are coming like about 2 years ago before the actual migration to the prod environments.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tara. I work at AstraZeneca. We also use LSAF. One of the challenges we have is when we open in Microsoft, it downloads.
Exactly.
So, and I want to know if there is anything you're doing for that.
So right now we have a different, I believe you probably also use SDDDC to open Microsoft files. And there's another tool you can also use. We use another tool as an alternative way to open Microsoft files. And I believe SAS has this on their roadmap.
They do, yes.
To be able to open Microsoft files directly from interface. Probably on their roadmap this Q4. Yes.
Yeah, Q3, Q4, they said. But sorry, what are you using in the meanwhile? Are you doing anything about that? Or no?
Yeah, right now we use another tool to open the Microsoft files. So it's kind of a combination of using interface plus another maybe SDDDC.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience that have a solution? I like to hear.
The solutions, just questions? Okay.
The solution, I think, is as if SAS is able to incorporate this to their roadmap as soon as possible, it will be great.
Yes, and as you mentioned, it's on the roadmap, so we're working on it. Any other questions? Going once? Yes, sir.
So do you guys find it challenging to connect raw data to LSAF? Like, you have to upload, right, every time? Do you have any solution for that? Like,
Sorry, can you repeat your question?
so how are you connecting raw data to the LSAF? Like, are you uploading it or like?
Right now we are uploading using a tool, but eventually we are considering directly integrates like external data to LSAF.
Okay.